In case you missed it, here's a Sports Animal Rewind. Our Eye on the SEC is brought to you by Miller Eye Care and Optical, 694-2622.
We got a Fayetteville, Arkansas next as we go around the entire Southeastern Conference and talk about spring practice at each and every stop around the league. Go to Fayetteville and bring in from hogsports.com. The publisher, Trey Biddy, joins us at Trey Biddy, Treybiddy on Twitter. Trey, Vince, and Evan Woodbery. How you doing this morning, Trey?
Good. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We're a little having a tough time hearing you just a little bit, Trey. You there with us?
I'm here.
Okay, that's better. Now we can hear you a little bit better. Obviously, the coaching transition. What to this point have you been able to see that stands out as being different with life now under Brett Bielema as the head coach?
Well, this is the kind of spring you wait your whole career not to be able to cover. They've been closed. Practices have been completely closed. No media availability after or before. So these first three practices before they go into spring break, we just haven't been able to watch, which is interesting because he seems so much more open. He's got this big personality. He shares information. He loves to talk about stuff, and but from the practice standpoint, it's kind of been the opposite. Petrino was a little more closed off, wasn't as open about talking about things, but he opened up every single spring practice. And I understand what they're doing. They want to get their guys together. They want to show them how they do things, and really, the first practice we get to watch is March 30th. So that's a ways away. But it's going to be interesting to see how things are done and what kind of ship he has. But from a personality standpoint, the guy's been great. The staff has been great. They all seem to kind of get along. They're all kind of funny. And they're also very serious about football.
What have the new coaches from Tennessee been like? Have you get a chance to interact with Jim Chaney or with Sam Pittman? And the follow-up question to that is, Sam Pittman 2 years ago when he was leaving a kind of a North Carolina program in disarray, probably never imagined he'd be making $500,000 and teams would be bidding on his services and he'd be one of the hottest names in the assistant coaching ranks. And how important was it to hang on to him?
Yeah, well, I think it's very important. I think it makes a statement, first of all, because one of the reasons Brett Bielema left Wisconsin was because he couldn't hold on to any assistants. I think he replaced six assistants last year at Wisconsin, and then after the Rose Bowl, right after the Rose Bowl, three coaches came up to him and said, hey, I've got opportunities elsewhere. And they weren't jobs that were promotions. They were lateral moves. They were just going to make more money. And that was a problem he experienced at Wisconsin. So one of the reasons he came to Arkansas, he could hire a better staff, pay a staff, and hold on to the staff. And upping Sam Pittman up to $500,000 a year just proved that. So I think that's that says a lot on a lot of levels. Chaney's a funny guy. I've had the opportunity to talk to him a couple times, and he seems like he's got it together. I think what benefits Arkansas with him is Bielema has an idea of how he likes his offense to be. Arkansas's personnel doesn't necessarily fit that, so they can go into this spring and figure out what they do well offensively. And as you guys know, Chaney has a background with the triple option, background with the spread, background with the pro-style offense. So he's pretty diverse, and they should be able to shape this offense to what this team does best and then build it from there.
Visiting with Trey Pittman, I'm sorry, go ahead, Trey.
With Pittman, obviously he's not as funny a guy, I guess it seems, in my conversations with him, but still seems like a good guy and a tremendous recruiter from what I can gather so far. Arkansas really closed strong. They got Dan Skipper, who actually flipped from Tennessee. They got Reeve Kohler, who was probably going to go to Tennessee before the change, and then and got Denver Kirkland all the way out in Florida. Three really talented offensive linemen in a very short amount of time. So he's impressed me really with his recruiting.
Visiting with Trey Biddy, who's the publisher of hogsports.com, previewing the Arkansas Razorbacks in spring practice, even though they've closed things down quite a bit, but certainly can speak on Arkansas. Trey, what about that quarterback competition there in spring and beyond?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. You've got Brandon Allen, who was the backup last year and didn't really have a great season. Nobody had a great season last year, really, at Arkansas. But, he's got a lot of talent and is pretty mobile. Brandon Mitchell actually made the decision, told the coaches last year he wanted to play some wide receiver and really ended up being a starter there. But still went to all the quarterback meetings, still considered himself a quarterback and a quarterback of the future. Those two guys will battle it out. Mitchell's a bigger guy. He's a senior, 6'4", 239, can really run, very tough to tackle. And then Allen's more of a drop-back passer, but he's still got some mobility. So that's going to be an interesting competition. But you've also got Taylor Reed, who started at Memphis as a freshman before transferring to Arkansas. A.J. Derby was one of the top quarterback prospects in the country. And went to Iowa before getting in some trouble, moving to linebacker, then got in some off-field trouble, and then transferred to a junior college. But he's another, 6'5", 240, big, strong-arm kid that is going to try to get in the mix there.
What one or two positions does Arkansas need to address this spring if you can go into autumn or go into 2013 with some optimism of bouncing back from last year?
Well, I think it starts on the offensive line and at quarterback. They need to figure out who the leader is going to be and feel comfortable with that guy. And then the offensive line, you've got two returning full-time starters. Braithwaite had some starting experience also. The thing with the offensive line, you've got a lot of bodies. They were taught to do things differently. They really stressed pass blocking. Even in the weight room, they did things that would benefit pass blocking. What we've seen in the winter training cycle with the new strength coach, they've really been focusing on squats and things to get that lower body more strengthened for better run blocking. So the offensive line and quarterback positions are going to be critical for Arkansas. The defense, I think there are a few questions. You return your four starters on the front. You've got two freshman linebackers who pretty much started the second half of the season returning. A lot of guys with a ton of experience in the secondary. So, you've got some players with some game experience there. Offensive line and quarterback, those are the questions to me.
Trey, last two things with you real quick. First, Otha Peters, who was also a Tennessee flip during the recruiting process. What's his future, do you think, this year? Is that an increased role that may lead to a full-time starting spot?
Yeah, he's one of the guys I was talking about. The way it worked out, you lost both of your linebackers who were seniors last year at Arkansas. The thing is, there are other linebackers on the roster, but none of them really stepped up, and they ended up going with A.J. Turner first, and then when the other linebacker got hurt, they went with Otha Peters. Peters is a big kid, 6'1", 6'2", 240 probably. Really built well and can really play. A.J. on the other side is a smaller linebacker, an outside linebacker who's really athletic and catch the ball. So it's a nice pair for the future. But I think Otha has NFL potential eventually.
And any of the early enrollees have an opportunity to contribute, or which one would be the ones to watch here in spring?
Well, they need them to. I talked about the linebacker position, how there's bodies on campus, but nobody stepped up except for those freshmen. Where they're bringing in Mortrell Spate and Mike Tavares, two of the top-rated junior college outside linebackers in the country. And I mentioned that they have, some returning players in the secondary. Well, the secondary wasn't necessarily that good at safety. And Tyquin Coleman comes in, and he's a guy that I think will push for a starting job. Harold Washington at cornerback, they need him to provide some depth at corner, maybe even start, but at least provide some depth. And, those guys definitely, John McClure on the offensive line, there's going to be plenty of battles for spots there. So he's a guy to watch at that spot also.
Trey Biddy covers the Arkansas Razorbacks for hogsports.com, the publisher, at Trey Biddy on Twitter. Trey, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much for your insights. Have a super day.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.